Well, good afternoon, and thanks for joining me again. I'm in my standard place here out in the garage, and if we look over my shoulder, there's a Jeep back there that's still got a motor in it, and we're about as far as we can get without that getting out of the way. So I've been to Harbor Freight today. I've got an engine hoist and an engine stand there. I got to get my ladder put away and those 2x6s put away and my moving dolly things. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to build that crane, the winch and the stand. I think I mentioned the other day I got to throw some of the stuff that's over here outside, over there, get me a little space to work. But if all goes well, today and or this weekend, that motor is coming out of that Jeep, off that frame. And we'll get the rest of that thing finished up. So come on along. I'll set you down somewhere where you can kind of see what I'm up to. And we'll get busy on this thing. We'll get that radiator off and we'll get that engine out of this Jeep today. So let's go. Let's get her done. All right, well, let's talk wiring. So I've got one loom going underneath here, which is going to these driving lights. Most of this is disconnected except what's going to the alternator there, the coil, and then over here on the other side, I'm going into the back of the injection system, and the rest of it is hanging loose over there, I believe. So it's time to get that undone next. Now these, what I might just do here, well, I'll just take them off because everything's got to come off and eventually. So I'll take those off. I mentioned that I had an electric fan in here, so that's a thermostat switch or relay for the fan. So I'll pull that out. Some extra, I think there's the power for it up in the front here. So a little bit of wiring to unhook, and then I'm gonna start to get all the wiring off, see what we got with just the engine block here. So I will set you down for a minute and we'll do that, and I'll come back and show you what I got. Well, it could be said that there's a certain amount of fear involved when you're ripping a vehicle apart. Luckily, I'm not easily intimidated, but this is the electrical system. So, nothing to be scared of, right? Yeah, it's not all electrical. There's a fuel line mixed in with that mess. So, that's off of there. The engine looks a little more naked now. I've got to get the overflow tank off, and then I'm ready to disconnect my hoses, my radiator hoses. And I'm gonna have to push this thing back because it's pretty close to the garage door, but I'll slide her back and start to get the radiator and the grill off of there, and then we can work on that motor. So have no fear, man. That is all there is to it. That's all there is to the electrical system on a Jeep. It's really quite simple. So that's how it is right now. This is gonna make a pretty good before and after picture of when and if, when this thing is running again, I'll be able to remind us what the floor looked like when I took the electrical system out. So, I don't really know what to say about that, except that is quite a mess. So I will come back to you. I'll keep checking in. All right, well, here we have it. The radiator is off. So what holds the grill is basically just one bolt up through the bottom. It looks to me like that is not the factory bushing or washer or whatever. That looks like a piece of wood wrapped in some tape. But anyway, the grill is off, and let's just show you what we look like now with the front of the Jeep all completely naked. So the last thing that has to come undone is the steering box so that we can get the steering pump off of there, and then that motor is disconnected now. I've got brake lines still here, so I'll deal with those. Sorry, I think I just put the light right in front of the camera. So I've got the brake cylinder, a couple of brake lines there. These were breather tubes that I ran down to the breathers on the differentials. I just wanted to get them up high, so I ran them over and kind of around to the front or the back of the leaves and to the pivot point back there, and then brought them up high. And my plan was always to put some little filter or something on the end of them, breather, but anyway, there we go. So we're gonna drop that. Well, I'm not sure how I'm gonna do about what I'm gonna do about that steering pump now. So that'll be next. And then I think I do need to go get me a hanger crossbar to hook on the lift over there to lift the engine off with, but it's pretty darn close. All right, well, we got the front bumper off, as you can see, and the lights. So of course there's a little, you can see the PB blaster goo all over the place. So here's an interesting, there's always one bolt that won't work. Okay, so that one right there, let's see if I can point at that. That one is welded to the frame, you'll see. Well, this one was supposed to be welded to the frame right there, and it wasn't. Never gripped the metal. So that nut was spinning in there when I was trying to take the bolt out. Now the interesting thing is, because it has been welded on, it was absolutely just one way that you could get an end wrench in there, and that was kind of a nightmare. So I whacked a knuckle pretty good with that thing, so I'm gonna have to go inside and clean that up a little, put a band-aid on it. But I think that's a pretty good process of disassembly right now. That'll make it easier to deal with that power steering pump. So you see my bucket of antifreeze down there? Well, that's not only just a bucket of antifreeze, it's a bucket of antifreeze and a screwdriver. Of course, whenever you're working around a bucket of something, if you drop something, it's absolutely guaranteed to go blunk, blunk, bloom, splash right in the bucket. So there's a screwdriver down in the bottom of that thing, and I'll have to fish that out when I dump that out. So there's that. So one difficult bolt. Other than that, not too bad. So coming along here on the frame on the front. So I'll check back in once I go get the blood under control and get a band-aid on the finger, and then we'll come back and continue on with this thing, although it's probably about time to go eat something. So I'll check back with you. Well, okay, so it's Saturday morning, and a Jeep has pretty much exploded all over this garage. So I'll pan around here. We got a cross member over there. We got the wiring spaghetti harness there. We got the radiator here. We got the rest of the Jeep over there. Got the bumper here. I did get those tow hooks off. They're stainless steel, but obviously rusted a little bit. So anyway, job one today is to get all these extra parts outside, including all my bucket of stuff over here that's got all the, I got all the heating elements or the heating enclosures. The dashes can probably go outside. And then that will free up some space. I'll tidy up just a bit, and we'll start working on getting that motor yanked out of this thing. So let's just get after that project. It's a little cold and rainy and windy outside today, so I'm gonna do this first. I'm not gonna film it, it's not exciting. I'm just gonna get this stuff moved out of here, and then I'll come back and I will show you how we're gonna get that motor out of there. All right, well, I thought I'd give you a quick glance at what a little housekeeping can do. So let me spin around here. So somebody asked me in the last episode I stuck up about these wheel dollies that I've got this thing sitting on, and I'll answer that person directly, but just in case anyone else is curious, these are just the ones that I got from Harbor Freight, and they're not very expensive. I want to say like $45 a pair or something like that, but very well worth it. I just, it's just me here today, and I was getting ready to just clean over on the other side of the garage over there, so I just slid the whole Jeep over here, and you know, I may do the same. I may drop the motor while it's over here so I can kind of wheel the crane in, or the hoist in from the side, pick the motor up, push the Jeep out from underneath it. So there you go. Those things are well worth the 40 or 50 bucks a pair. I have 2 pairs, and those are a pretty good investment. They sure just make it easy to, you know, kind of clean up a little bit, move the thing out of the way, clean underneath it. Loud car just went by, sorry about that. And, you know, move the thing around, get it all situated where you want it. So it kind of makes your garage feel bigger than it really is, because you can move the project around and work around it. So anyway, that's where we're at. Housekeeping is done. All those spare parts are outside, except really the only thing left in here is the interior stuff. I left the doors for both Jeeps in here, and I've got the dash pad off the CJ7 there. Obviously my steering column's hanging up on the wall there. That's about it. Everything else is outside. So I am where I thought I would be, and it's ready to have a little sip of coffee and then get working on seeing what it's going to take to get this motor out of here. Again, I do think I need to go get me the crossbar. I kind of forgot about that. So, you know, from your chain here, the idea with your hoist is that you put a crossbar here with chains hanging at each end, so that you can get on a couple of bolts here and have the thing supported front to back. So don't have one of those. Not sure I could do this without one, so I'm probably gonna change out of my dirty clothes here and get suitable to go out in public. And I'll go get one of those, and then if I just walk around here. Oh yeah, so I did say that I needed to deal with that power steering, but other than that, that motor's ready to come out of there, I think. So that'll be the order of the business today. So I'll be back. Don't go anywhere. I will be back. All right, well, that's a swinging engine right there. So really not too tough. There's 2 bolts that you can undo from the bottom of the motor mounts. I tried coming in from the top initially. There's 2 down in there, but you can get like a millimeter of wrench travel on that, and doesn't work so good. So anyway, she is lifted completely clear of the frame. So what I'm going to do is slide it back just a little ways, and then, like I said, I'm going to shove the Jeep over the frame out from underneath it, and then I'll be able to, I won't have to like wheel that thing all around until I get it on my engine stand over here. So there we have it. She's hanging. All right, well, we got quite a bit done yesterday on the frame. So today, there was a couple of brackets for brake lines that were put in with Phillips head screws that I'm having a really hard time getting loose, and I got to get them out of there to finish up sanding this little bit here. Today I am going to drop the power steering box. Now this box, I put this extra brace on it, so I'll have to take that off as well. But that was, you know, all kind of in an attempt to make this Jeep stay in one lane when I drove down the road. So anyway, today we're going to finish up the frame and get a coat of primer on everything. Even if I'm not done with a spot here or there, I'm going to get the rest of it covered up. And then we'll turn our attention over here to the block. And I believe what I'm going to do is pull the bell housing and the clutch off, or the bell housing and the bell housing and the clutch, so that I can get that end of it on the engine mount, because I kind of need to do that to get this thing all situated and get the garage sorted out so I can get the car back in here, because it snowed a little bit over the weekend. So that's today's order of business, and I'll check in and show you how we're doing as we get through that process. But first I'm going to drop this, hopefully drop this power steering box. So there's the 2 bolts up here. There's bolts on the side of it where it bolts to the bracket, and then I'll have to undo my brace. So I'll probably have to get the PB blaster out, give everything a little shot of that so I can get these bolts out, and then I'll have to take off that pitman arm. I do have the dropped pitman on there, you can see. So again, here, let me give you a view from the side. So, you know, the standard pitman arm just comes straight up. This one drops, because the idea is you want this steering arm to be as parallel as possible. So while I'm doing all this, I'm gonna see if I can't resituate that steering stabilizer shock as well. It seems like it should come out further on this end because it's in such a tight bind that it nearly touches. In fact, it might even be touching the front of the differential right there. So that needs a little work, and now that it's all out in the open, it's easy to see what we got to do. So I'll do a little work on that while I'm doing this. So anyway, let's get this steering box out of here, shall we? Maybe I'll set you down and let you watch. All right, well, I've got the steering box off, and I believe I might have mentioned once before that there's always one bolt. So down inside of the frame right here, there's two bolts that are supposed to be welded to the frame that those steering brackets bolts go into, and they're also the bolts that hold the leaf spring carrier here. Well, the front one was just turning in there. Luckily, I was able to jam my screwdriver down in a hole and kind of wedge it down on the side and get it to hold enough to finish getting the thing out of there. But so there's the one bolt for that exercise. So, and then as you probably saw, I had to bring the spinning screwdriver out here and get rid of those two screws so I can finish up cleaning up the frame here. And then over here, I've got this bracket that is the bump stop. That's still all gooey inside, so I'm gonna put the scraper to that job, see if I can get that cleaned up, and then I'll pull that bump stop off there. And I bet you know who's gonna get us the new bump stop. It'll have to be one we get from Energy Suspension. So those guys ain't sponsoring me. They should be, because I love their stuff. But anyway, we'll do a new bump stop there, and then we'll tear into all this steering stuff and so forth. So now that I do have that spring hanger loose, I got to track down where I bought my other spring hangers that I put on the CJ7, because they were like machined out of a block of steel as opposed to these that are twisted. I really like the looks of them and the stoutness of them, so I might replace those while I've got this all loose. But I will have to take the other side loose to get the other part of that steering box brace off of there. So more to do. Just thought I'd check in and show you where I'm at. I'll just do the dirty work here without you watching, see if I can get that bump stop bracket cleaned out, because it's welded to the frame, so I can't take it off and clean it up nicely. It's just gonna have to be what it is. So we'll see if we can get that off there. I'll drop that steering box off the pitman arm there and get that out of the way, and see about undoing that other side spring carrier so that I can get that frame, so that power steering support bar out of there. So that's where I'm at. And then when I get that done, then, you know, I've got a little spot here to clean up. I'll do what I can on this front part of that front cross member, but might not get that perfect, but we'll get as good as we can get it. and then we'll get that last coat of primer on this whole thing so we can get back to focusing on over there on the motor. So there we are, that's where we're at so far. Let's carry on. All right, well, I just thought I'd stop for a minute and do a quick check-in here. So we're around the back side of the Jeep, of the motor, and we've got these 6 bolts that go in here that hold the clutch together, hold the clutch on there. So I've got the bell housing off. So the bell housing basically has the 4 9/16 bolts, then 2 on this side that are 5/8, and then on the bottom from the other side you got these little bolts that hold these covers on, this one and this one. It's where the starter goes through. Sorry, I got an extension cord in the middle. So anyway, there's the clutch pivot point, and this is what actually threw the throwout bearing to make your clutch go in. So here's my clutch, and I kind of knew that we were gonna put a new clutch in this thing. So this is the old clutch plate, looks pretty scorched, and this pressure plate has obviously been hot. We knew that, I knew that. I've had times when I felt like this clutch was slipping, you know, when we're getting on the throttle, or if we're really climbing something difficult. Once in a while we'd kind of be heating that clutch up a little bit. So the flywheel I think is going to have to come off next in order for me to get that engine stand up there. So let's walk around to the front for a minute. So I pulled my flex fan off of these 4 bolts here. Those bolts and that bigger one in the center go in the center of the bottom pulley there, but it won't come off yet. I thought at one point I might be able to kind of get everything off the front and have this be the part that hooks to the engine stand, but I don't think that's going to work. Anyway, so alternator and its bracket, starter motor, these are the long bolts out of that bell housing. So these 2 are bigger than those 4, and then these are the ones that go in the back that held the starter in place. So there's my old starter. I think this, we'll just put a mean green starter in this thing while we're doing it. But anyway, so making good progress. We'll see if we can get this flywheel off now, and if we can, then that'll get me to the point where I need to be to get her on the engine stand. I don't think I'm going to be able to without getting that flywheel off, just because these little things, I kind of ran it up there and held one up there, and I don't think these are quite long enough to kind of span over that flywheel. So I'm not sure if you're supposed to have a special tool for those, or just that's just torqued down really tight. The clutch was kind of a bear to get off of there because they were torqued down very tight, and as you're turning them, you're turning the flywheel. I tried to see if I could put a socket in there and kind of tap it with the foam rubber hammer, but I don't know if you can see that, but I broke that socket, cracked it right down the side. So that's not how you do it, obviously. So let's see if we can get these bolts here off. Those have got to be off the end of the crankshaft, and if I can get those off, then maybe this flywheel will come right off, or I'll have to go get a flywheel puller, maybe borrow one from the boys at this auto parts store. I know they loan out tools like that, so we'll see what happens with that next. My guess is this is going to be a little tough, but I'll see what I can do, and we'll see if we can get this thing on a stand. Well, you know how you just think something's going to be really difficult, and then it turns out to not be. So this flywheel is one of those situations. So here's what we got. We got these 6 little fine threaded big old bolts that bolt into the back of the crankshaft right there. So I thought these were just going to be a nightmare to get out of there, but what I did is I took my 1/2-inch breaker with 3/4 inch impact socket on there. My impact gun is junk, so I didn't mess with that. But I just got it on there, and again, remember I said when I'm turning on that, it's trying to turn a crankshaft. So I just took my old trusty rubber mallet and would smack the end of the breaker bar kind of like you would be doing with your impact wrench. And that got those bolts broken loose. Got them all out of there, and I thought, okay, I bet I'm gonna have to go down to the auto parts store and rent a flywheel puller. Nope, it just pops off of there. So, hey, all right. So I'm ready to jack this thing up and see if I can get it hooked to this engine stand and get it off this lift. So I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and set you up on a time lapse and let you watch me do that. So here we go. All right, well, I said I'd shoot you a time lapse while I was putting the engine on the stand, but once in a while, you know, these GoPros are pretty cool little cameras, but once in a while they forget to auto rotate, and that's somewhere I must have tilted the camera. So it did the whole time lapse crooked, sideways, so you'd had to turn your head to watch it. It was boring anyway. But I got it on there, so I'll give you a look here. We've got the thing sitting right here on the stand, so I just pushed her back against the wall here. So I've got it out of the way, plenty of room to walk around here. And then here's the frame, all fully primed on the top. You know, a little dirty and from this, all the sanding and stuff, but not too bad. So I am going to wrap this up for the weekend. I got the car back inside, and I'm just gonna kind of push my engine hoist over the frame, kind of in the center of the frame there, and get it out of the way. And then tomorrow's Monday, we can go back to work. So this was a big weekend. I know this has been a long episode, but it was one of those points where there was just a lot of stuff to get done, and I made a lot of progress. So next time you see me, I think we'll be really considering trying to see if we can't flip this frame over and do the bottom of it. But that'll wait till next week. So tomorrow's Monday, I'll be back at work and we'll do our thing. So anyway, when you come back, we'll see what we do about turning this thing over. Thanks for watching again, and if you are enjoying this, shoot me a comment or something, let me know. I always really like hearing about people doing their own Jeeps. You know, this is kind of a labor of love, I think, for all of us crazy Jeep fanatics. So if you got one you're working on, or you did this same thing, or you've been thinking about it, hopefully I'm giving you a little inspiration if you're just thinking about it. If I can do it, you can do it. So let's wrap it for now, and I'll see you next time around.